absolute value of x plus 1 plus 2 less than 5. Okay, the first step is to have the absolute value all by itself on one side of the inequality. So we can subtract 2 from both sides of the inequality here. As long as we don't multiply or divide, we keep the direction of inequality as it is. If you multiply or divide by a negative, you need to change the direction of the inequality to its opposite side. So the first step is to isolate the absolute value. So here we have absolute value of x plus 1 less than, in this case, 5 minus 2 would be equal to 3. An absolute value of something is less than a number. Okay, let's see what that means. In general, if I have absolute value of x is less than k, number k, that means all the numbers that are less than k units away from 0. Let's picture that in the number line and see if that makes sense. So if this is 0, and if this is k, and if this is minus k, all the numbers that are less than k units from 0 would be, in the number line, would be all the numbers between negative k and k. So when we're looking at absolute value of x less than a number, that means all the numbers that are less than k units away from 0, and those would be the numbers. So if I want to mathematically change this equation here that I have to the one without absolute value, then I can write all the numbers that are between negative k and k. Now, can you please put a check mark next to your name if you follow this concept, everyone? Now, similarly, since we're talking about this concept, if I had absolute value of x is greater than k, in that case, you're looking at all the numbers that are larger than k units away from 0. So in that case, we look at all the numbers to the right of k. These numbers here will be larger than k units away from 0. And also, the numbers to the left of negative k would be also larger than k units away from 0. So if I were going to change this equation here, this inequality in terms of absolute value, to the one without absolute value, then I would have to say all the numbers that are larger than k, or, so I'm going to include as well all the numbers that are less than negative k. Okay, Sanjay, I know you have a microphone. Go ahead and ask your question. What's your question?
In the bottom example, you use the or. When do we use or do we always write it similar to the top example?
Okay, that's a good question. Or means union. When you want to include both set of solutions, you use or. If I use and, means intersection, means what do we have in common between those two sets. So we used or to include both of these sets that I colored there. That's why they have that. Okay, did I answer your question? Okay, great. All right. Sometimes instead of x, you would have expression in terms of x. So let's go back to our problem here. Instead of x here, you have x plus 1 less than 3. So in this case, we have to change this inequality in terms of x into inequality without absolute value. So that means all the numbers that are between -3 and 3. We just change x to x plus 1. So all the numbers that are between -3 and 3, x plus 1 must be between -3 and 3. Because if you follow up to this point, the rest is pretty simple. When you say absolute value of x is less than k, it means all the numbers between -k and k. In this case, instead of x, we just have x plus 1. All right, great. Now, Sanji, you have a question?
What confused me about this question is the setup where you have -3 and 3 on each side, and all the other problems similar to this, you break it into two different equations. You know, like x plus 1 is less than 3, and then on the other side you'd have x plus 1 is less than -3, and then you work it separately. And this was just a little different. It's all in one, and I didn't know why.
Sure. You break it separately if this were x plus 1 greater than 3. If this was absolute value of x plus 1 greater than 3, let's go back to the basic again. If they were greater than 3, like in this example here, then you break it into two different pieces. But when it's less than 3 or less than any number, then you put it in between these two. Again, this comes from the basic definition of absolute value. If I had absolute value of x is equal to k, that would mean all the numbers that are exactly k units away from 0. Let me put this example down here too. Maybe that would help you to understand this a little better. So if I say absolute value of x is equal to k, so it means all the numbers are exactly k units away from 0. So that would be two numbers here, k and minus k. So in this case, x is equal to k, or x is equal to minus k. Now, when we say absolute value of x is less than k, then it means all the numbers that are less than k units away from 0. So this number here is less than k units away from 0, this number next to it, and all the way to the k. All these numbers are less than k units away from 0. And so as the other part, -1 is less than k units away from 0, and so on. So when we have less than, that's the key, then you would rewrite it as all the numbers that are between -3 and 3. Do you follow this a little bit more clear now?
Yes. Thank you. That clarifies it completely.
Okay, excellent. That's all you need to do now is to isolate x. You would subtract 1 from each side here. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1 from each side of the inequality. And then x would be between 2, and here would be -4. So all the numbers between -4 and 2, let's graph that. If we say this is 0, and this is 2, and this is -4, so all the numbers between these 2 points would be the solution to this inequality. And you can easily check also, pick a number in between. The easier number to check probably would be 0. If I pick 0 and substitute that into the original inequality for x, then I would get 0 plus 1 would be 1, 1 plus 2 would be 3, 3 less than 5, so for sure that makes sense and that should work. And when you select one point from the region that you claim is the solution, it works in that inequality. Every point should also work also. And you can actually go further and pick a number like 3 outside the solution set and substitute it for x, and you see definitely the sum won't be less than 5. It would be greater than 5 in that case. how do you write the answer in interval notation? Okay, just put -4 in parentheses and 4. That's exactly correct. So when it says interval notation, here would be all the numbers between -4 and 2. And we're using parentheses because it doesn't say equal to, right? If it says equal to, if you want to have to include the endpoints, then we use brackets. And that's what it means by interval form.